NEWSCENTER tonight. President Moon Jae-in urges political parties to pass his $6 billion supplementary budget as he voices concerns over South Korea's sluggish economy.
And with Korea's GDP growth in negative territory, Finance Minister Hong Nam-gi vows to lay out plans soon to boost investment in key sectors.
U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton says Washington is not interested in joining other countries in a multilateral effort on North Korea's denuclearization.
The Korean government inaugurates a new organization tasked with cleaning up fine dust air pollution. At its helm is the former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. NEWSCENTER begins now.
Good evening to our viewers in Asia and hello to others watching from around the world. Welcome to Arirang NewsCenter. I'm Han-dan in Seoul.
And I'm Do-aram. Thank you as always for joining us this evening. Now let's start with the presidential office of Cheongwade. President Moon Jae-in says the government-led extra budget is crucial to tackle the many challenges the economy is facing.
Speaking with his top aides, the president called on the government and parliament to work together and promised greater support in promoting investment in the private sector. Our Shin Se-min leading our coverage tonight.
President Moon Jae-in expressed his deep regret over the rifts among political parties during an especially critical time when the country's economy is at stake. During a weekly meeting with his top aides, he said he hopes the parliament endorses the government-led budget plan worth $5.8 billion as soon as possible.
경제는 타이밍입니다. 추경 처리가 늦어질수록 국민의 삶과 민생 경제에 부담이 늘어납니다.
The extra budget had been devised to tackle the worsening fine dust issue and give a boost to the slumping economy. The president also called on the government to take greater responsibility in working to revive the country's economic revitalization, while hinting that his administration will also work to promote investment in the private sector.
특히 정부는 시스템 반도체, 바이오 헬스, 미래차 등 3대 분야를 중점 육성 산업으로 선정하여 우선적으로 지원할 계획입니다. 이들 분야가 우리 경제의 신성장 동력 3대 기둥이 되도록 정책적 지원을 아끼지 않겠습니다.
The president said government-led investments, which lead the way in breathing life into the economy, will have to expand into high-tech industries to potentially create a second venture boom. On top of that, the president referred to recent investment plans announced by the country's leading conglomerates SK Hynix and Samsung Electronics. He said that a boost in civilian investment is an important factor and ordered the government to create an investment climate. Despite solid economic foundation, there are multiple hurdles to overcome, like the waning investment, the outbound shipment, and consumption. And one way the president is hoping to resolve these issues is by uniting support from his government and the members of the parliament to approve the multi-billion-dollar extra budget bill. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Korea's finance chief has also addressed the nation's sluggish economy today, highlighting necessary measures to boost domestic growth. Our senior economics correspondent Kim Hae-sung has more on what he said during a meeting with economy-related ministers.
South Korea's finance minister has admitted that the 0.3% fall in GDP growth in the first quarter, the slowest pace since the global financial crisis, is concerning and vowed to come up with measures to boost private investment.
I feel it heavily that GDP growth fell 0.3% on quarter on falling exports and investment. We'll strengthen on-site communication with large companies and medium and small-sized companies and come up with an investment plan for various sectors, including system memory chips, by around May and June.
System memory chips are a type of non-memory chip used for data processing and image sensors for driverless cars and AI. Korean chip makers lead the global market for memory chips like NAND flash and DRAM, accounting for over 60% of global market share. But they only take 3% of the global non-memory chips market, which recorded $310 billion of revenue last year, more than double that of memory chips. Samsung Electronics also announced plans last week to invest $116 billion in non-memory chips by 2030. On rising global oil prices following the U.S. announcement to end exemptions on Iranian oil sanctions, Minister Hong said the government will help boost the number of discount gas stations and help local petrochemical companies diversify oil imports. To help support economic growth, the finance minister again emphasized the need to pass the $5.9 billion extra budget bill at the National Assembly as soon as possible and said there is no plan to revise government's GDP growth forecast of between 2.6 and 2.7% as of now. 김혜성, 아리랑 뉴스.
While Korea continues to suffer from slowing exports, a special team headed by the Trade Ministry put their heads together for the second time today since its launch in February. As part of efforts to find new growth engines in the nation's exports, the team laid out plans to further accelerate several industries, including rechargeable batteries. Kim Da-mi with the details.
The export trade response team, headed by the Minister for Trade, discussed ways to foster new growth engines, as well as investing some $278 million to boost sluggish exports. It said it will focus on investing the extra budget on financially assisting local exporters, as well as helping the firm's marketing programs. In particular, it said it would focus on fostering new growth engines for exports, including rechargeable batteries, biotechnology, and consumer goods. Exports of rechargeable batteries increased by 12% on-year in the first quarter of 2019, thanks to higher demand for lithium-ion batteries for electric cars. In order to support reusable batteries as a newly emerging export item, the Industry Ministry introduced plans for developing core technologies and R&D projects on its commercialization. Next month, the ministry will announce detailed measures to further expand the consumer goods exports, which took up almost 5% of the country's total exports last year. These measures will include using the popularity of the Korean wave Hallyu to market consumer goods. Kim Da-mi, Arirang 뉴스.
After months of will he or won't he, former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon had at last decided to head a special council to tackle Korea's worsening fine dust problem. And today, that high-level council was officially launched amid high hopes it'll come up with effective policies to combat the fine dust pollution plaguing our nation. Kim Mo-kyun was at the inauguration ceremony.
The inauguration ceremony of the National Council on Climate and Air Quality kicked off at the Korea Press Center in central Seoul on Monday. Under the leadership of former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, the council comprises more than 40 members, including politicians and industry experts. During his opening remarks, Ban vowed to devote the rest of his life to resolving the fine dust problem. He also pledged to focus on coming up with step-by-step countermeasures to tackle the fine dust, which is especially serious in Korea from December to May.
We will first focus on effective short-term policies to reduce fine dust during this time of the year. In the long term, we will work comprehensively in various sectors to dig for meaningful accomplishments, because the fine dust problem is closely linked with transportation, manufacturing, energy, and other industries.
By May, the State Council seeks to gather a group of citizen representatives to hold an open debate to listen to public opinion on possible solutions to the issue. It will then hold several polls and town hall meetings with experts to hand over its final policy proposal to the government by next year. To fully eradicate the fundamental cause of the fine dust problem, the Council also plans to seek cooperation with China and other Northeast Asian countries that are suffering from similar conditions. Some 100 people attended the ceremony, including Presidential Chief of Staff No Young-min, Seoul Mayor Park Won-sun, and Environment Minister Cho Myung-rae. No, who spoke on behalf of President Moon, said that the Blue House will strongly support the Council's activities and openly look into its proposals.
The Blue House trusts that the Council will do its best. We hope that the Council will work with strong determination to create policies that the public can feel and sympathize on. The presidential office will actively reflect the Council's findings to the nation's policies.
Though the find us issue certainly won't be fixed overnight, the council vows to do whatever it can to bring back a clean environment where citizens can breathe freely once again. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
Over at the National Assembly, the ruling Democratic Party has decided to accept the centrist Bareunmirae Party's own version of an anti-corruption body bill and put it on fast track together with the bills they already submitted. DP floor leader Hong Young-pyo said the party decided to give the proposed bill a fast track status to create a body to investigate high-ranking government and public officials. Despite fierce resistance from some ruling party lawmakers, Hong vowed to put those bills on fast track. Since last Thursday, rival parties have been attempting to fast-track 4 bills, including one on electoral reform. Those efforts have failed, however, because of strong resistance from the main opposition Liberty Korea Party. President Moon Jae-in says he will work toward making a third North Korea-U.S. summit a reality. His comments came during his summit with Chilean President Sebastián Piñera, where they also discussed economic cooperation and South Korea's associate membership in the Pacific Alliance. Park Hee-jun reports.
President Moon Jae-in says he will push for a third North Korea-U.S. summit, especially since the two sides have shown willingness to continue dialogue. He also thanked Chilean President Sebastián Piñera for his support in the peace process on the Korean Peninsula during their summit at the Blue House on Monday. Saying that the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula is not just an issue for the two Koreas, but the entire world, President Piñera promised to continue his support for South Korea's drive for peace.
우리는 한반도와 중남미의 평화와 번영을 위해서도 긴밀히 협력하기로 했습니다. 오늘 피네라 대통령님은 한반도의 완전한 비핵화와 항구적 평화 정착을 위한 우리 정부의 노력에 확고한 지지를 보여주셨습니다.
The two sides agreed to cooperate further in a range of areas, including the Fourth Industrial Revolution and e-government, areas in which the two sides signed MOUs. They also signed a comprehensive agreement on defense. Another focal point at the meeting was South Korea's associate membership of the Pacific Alliance, a Latin American trade bloc made up of 4 countries bordering the Pacific Ocean: Chile, Mexico, Colombia, and Peru. They make up nearly 40% of Latin America's total GDP. President Moon expressed his interest in Korea joining the alliance in hopes of increasing trade between the two regions.
South Korea has shown interest in the Pacific Alliance. We are set to chair the alliance. We fully support South Korea becoming an associate member from an observer.
It's the first time a Latin American leader has visited Seoul under the Moon administration. The South Korea-Chile summit is expected to increase Korea's diplomacy and economic cooperation with the region. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
The United States says it is not interested in joining other countries for talks on North Korea's denuclearization, adding it would rather see another one-on-one meeting between Kim Jong-un and President Trump. The comments by Washington's top security advisor come a week after Russian President Vladimir Putin suggested reviving the long-stalled six-party talks in a summit with the North Korean leader. Kim Yo-sun has more.
U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton has made it clear that multi-party talks with North Korea are not the preferred method the Trump administration is pursuing to achieve the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Speaking on Fox News Sunday, Bolton said the six-party talks have failed in the past, explaining that North's leader has, at least up to now, wanted one-on-one contact with the U.S. Bolton's remarks are in reference to the revival of the past six-party talks approach, as suggested by Russian President Vladimir Putin after he met North Korean leader Kim Jong-un last week. However, the top U.S. security advisor stressed this does not mean Washington will not consult with other countries. He highlighted that President Trump continues to stay in close contact with his Japanese, Russian, Chinese, and South Korean counterparts. He also went on to explain that Trump is prepared to hold a third North Korea-U.S. summit at the right time. Speaking about the Kim-Putin summit, Bolton said the Russian leader isn't overly interested in bilateral trade with Pyongyang, but is focused on pursuing the so-called 3 mega projects. The projects refer to the connection of the Trans-Siberian Railway, Trans-Korean Railway, and the construction of a gas pipeline from Russia to South Korea via the north. Meanwhile, the Kremlin has emphasized that Russia is acting in its home region when building relations with neighboring North Korea. Commenting on last week's Russia-North Korea summit, President Putin's press secretary highlighted that Russia shares a border with the north. He also said when Washington deals with Pyongyang, it's acting in Russia's region. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
With the nuclear talks between Washington and Pyongyang now at a standstill, the two sides seem to be turning to their respective allies in an apparent move to ramp up pressure on each other. But would that help in moving things forward? Our Lee Ji-won heard from experts for some clues.
Russian President Vladimir Putin met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un for the first time last Thursday, and the next day met with Chinese President Xi Jinping at the One Belt, One Road Forum in Beijing. Among the many issues they covered was, of course, North Korea's denuclearization.
We exchanged views on the situation on the Korean Peninsula, as always. We need to address fundamental issues at least and move forward towards creating conditions that will be sufficient for North Korea in terms of its security.
They did not discuss any new plans, Putin said, but he referred to a need for the U.S. to create the conditions under which the North would be willing to denuclearize. President Xi seemed to back Putin, praising what he called the Russian leader's historic contribution to their mutual trust and cooperation. Meanwhile, the U.S. and Japan are boasting of their own close cooperation, especially on North Korea. Citing the U.S. ambassador to Japan, William Hagerty, Reuters reports that in their meeting last week, Trump and Prime Minister Abe discussed their joint efforts to enforce sanctions on the North. The two leaders also reportedly commented on Japan possibly taking a bigger role in negotiations over the Korean Peninsula's security. Abe himself said in a press conference after the summit that Japan too will play an active role in denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula. Abe also quoted President Trump as saying he will get fully behind a summit between North Korea and Japan to solve the issue of Japanese nationals abducted by the regime. President Putin has suggested reviving the six-party talks once some progress is made, but it seems those countries are already divided 3 against 3. With the atmosphere like this, a North Korea expert says the current standstill will probably last even longer.
The recent summits did not bring in new variables. It could have been significant if Russia or China had cut off their support for the North, or if Japan had convinced the US to back down on its pressure campaign. But with both sides simply solidifying their support, North Korea and the US will only entrench where they are.
The experts said there is not much South Korea can do at the moment either, and that for now, all anyone can do is to simply try to keep the door to dialogue open. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
And staying with the nuclear deadlock, Arirang's Oh Jung-hee now tells us what Kim Jong-un's possible next move could be following his first face-to-face with Russian President Vladimir Putin last week.
With the summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin complete, what move will the North Korean leader make next? One possibility is Chinese President Xi Jinping visiting Pyongyang for a summit with Kim Jong-un within the next 2 or 3 months. Kim and Xi have had 4 summits in total, 3 last year and 1 in January. And North Korean state media reported in January that Xi accepted Kim's invitation to visit North Korea and notified the North of his plans for it, implying that their discussions were quite specific. Observers suggest that North Korea will continue to coordinate with China and Russia to strengthen its leverage against the U.S.
North Korea is coming up with ways to pressure the U.S. so that it can strike the deal it wants by the end of this year. But at the same time, it's also aware that its negotiation with the U.S. may eventually break down. To prepare for that scenario, the North is leaving room for coalition with China and Russia afterwards.
North Korea wouldn't shun the dialogue momentum with South Korea and the U.S., experts say. But the North is rather waiting for Seoul and Washington to take actions before the deadline is set, the year's end. Pyongyang has fired Kim Yong-chol, who's been the key man in charge of communicating with Seoul and Washington. It's at the same time ramping up criticisms against South Korea for its joint drills with the U.S. The North also has not responded to Seoul's proposal of having another summit, and South and North Korean directors of the Joint Liaison Office have not met for over 2 months. Meanwhile, North Korea is looking to diversify its diplomatic relations. Wrapping up its summit with Moscow, Pyongyang sent its vice foreign minister on a trip to Syria, Iran, Azerbaijan, and Mongolia, the member states of the non-aligned movement, on Saturday. 오정희, Arirang News.
Shifting gears now, and after South Korea became the first country in the world to commercialize the 5G wireless network for mobile subscribers, there's been much anticipation on how 5G can change everyday life. To dive deeper into this issue, we have our IT correspondent, Oh Soo-young, in the studio with us. Soo-young, it is a pleasure to have you here today. Now, Soo-young, we keep hearing that 5G is 20 times faster than the conventional LTE that we have, and it's considered LTE quite quick as well. How will this massive improvement in speed affect our daily lives?
Well, simply think of it this way. Well, if it took you about 20 seconds before to download a video, it's going to take you only a second now. And also, I'm sure you've experienced some sort of lag time when you're waiting for your AI voice assistant to respond to you, or if you're waiting for something to download or load. Well, the lag time itself, or latency, will now drop by 90% compared to 4G. So that's just under a millisecond. So that's going to be a vast improvement. And to show how this fits into our daily lives, I've visited a couple of places in Seoul.
A 5G pop-up centre in Gangnam has attracted more than 50,000 visitors in the first 2 weeks since it opened earlier this month. Using VR goggles that run seamlessly on 5G, you can star in your favourite K-pop performances and even find a celebrity companion to go on a virtual date with.
It's so three-dimensional, I can even see the wrinkles.
You can even play online games and watch sports in real time from various angles and through the eyes of multiple players.
A lot more immersive and kind of more visceral. There was no lag or anything like that. Like, it was as quick and responsive as if it was from a console, you know.
Taking a break at a hotel is also expected to become an upgraded experience. At an AI hotel in Eastern Seoul, powered by KT Corporation, most room service functions like amenities and controlling the air conditioning are already available on demand through AI. And of course, the most important thing.
와이파이 비밀번호 알려줘.
The hotel plans to enhance these services even more with the introduction of 5G robots this year. Telecom firms have also introduced 5G offices, restaurants, and even concerts that run on the superfast network.
And this all seems very compelling, and there has been much hype surrounding the potential benefits of the 5G networks. But many mobile subscribers in particular have been voicing some disappointment in the technology, saying that it's not quite ready. What are the biggest complaints that have come out so far?
Well, experts actually say that the 5G industry itself is actually at a premature stage of development. So there are still a lot of limits, and one of the biggest obstacles, especially for mobile subscribers, is the fact that we simply don't have enough 5G base stations in the country. And this isn't just true for Korea, but the rest of the world as well. And the ones we do have right now in Seoul, they are mostly, they're mostly concentrated in the capital area, which means there isn't a full nationwide coverage. Also, 5G waves don't go through buildings, as well as previous wireless networks, so there's a lot of room for improvement there. Security is another big issue, as security breaches, even the shortest, could lead to massive accidents if it comes to driverless cars, for instance.
Right, so there are a lot of issues to work through, and as you say, it is still early stages at this point. I mean, but moving forward, how competent is South Korea in 5G technology?
Well, Korean companies are up against some strong competition from the United States and China in terms of both infrastructure and the areas of application for 5G. But experts say that Korean companies do have high potential to become leading players in the market down the road.
It's, I think, a mix, as I said earlier, of the demographics that are quite helpful by having the population grouped in dense cities, that makes it easier to deploy by having a very good fiber optic infrastructure out there already, having the right culture of being interested in adopting new technology, and having Samsung, which helps because, of course, they're both the supplier of network equipment and handsets. So they can help drive forward both sides of that marketplace.
And experts say Korea is especially advanced in terms of developing highly precise detection technologies based on 5G, which can be applied in virtually any industry, from smart factories and driverless cars to medical devices. The global market for 5G industries is expected to hit about $1 trillion by 2026. So the Korean government earlier this month announced its plan to grow Korea's 5G sector into an $158 billion industry by that time. And I'll be introducing to you some of the most promising sectors with the rest of my series this week.
Well, we certainly will be looking forward to that. Thank you, Seoul, for coming in today. Excellent reporting, as always.
Thank you, Adam.
Some countries, even cities, give everyone living there regular payments with no specific requirements as a basic income. In Korea, the province of Gyeonggi-do surrounding the capital held a special event today to inform the public about this concept. Our Ko Ryun-hee explains.
Gyeonggi-do province held its first basic income fair on Monday in Suwon, just south of Seoul, to let people know what a basic income is and how it could benefit society. More than 18,000 people came to listen to local and international experts discussing the idea. Gyeonggi-do is at the forefront of the initiative in Korea, having introduced a youth basic income system just this month. For now, the program applies only to people born in 1995 who have lived in Gyeonggi-do province for more than 3 years. This year, they get a one-time payment of around $860 in what the province is calling local currency. This means gift certificates or prepaid cards issued by the city that for the most part can only be used at small and mid-sized businesses. Small business owners welcome the event because it helps their sales.
Lots of young people are getting a basic income in the form of this local currency, but many don't know how to use it or what it looks like. Here, they can learn about it by purchasing our products, so it's good for us.
Gyeonggi-do province will work with other regions in Korea in the future to study basic income in more depth. This kind of fair will help in coming up with good policies.
And to inform the public about the trend internationally, Gyeonggi-do province explained the various pilot programs in other countries. For instance, the Finnish government began a pilot program in 2017, giving a basic income to 2,000 unemployed people, which some see as a major step towards improving quality of life. The event is also about people experiencing how their lifestyles would change if they're provided a basic income. The participants have been enjoying activities ranging from sports to virtual reality. Some say the basic income system is an irresponsible or populist cash handout. But others say it can not only improve people's lives, but also lead to higher economic growth by boosting consumption. Ko Ryun-hee, Arirang News.
Seoul City has signed an agreement with Arirang TV to promote the capital city's vibrant culture, attractions, and events to viewers around the world. Our Won Jung-hwan explains in detail.
More than 100 million households from over 100 countries around the world will be able to see exactly what's going on in the capital city of South Korea. The Seoul metropolitan government signed an agreement with Arirang TV on Monday to deliver information about the city's events, policies, and life, and of course, the many stunning tourist attractions Seoul has to offer. The city's mayor hopes to take this opportunity to better promote the charm of Seoul around the world as the capital city aims to become a representative model for other cities around the globe.
We are sharing and exporting the experience and wisdom of Seoul's development and modern history with other cities around the world. Our MOU sign is very much good momentum for two organizations, shares and dedicate the international development of Seoul marketing.
With the agreement, events and festivals held in Seoul will be broadcast to viewers around the globe once a week.
Especially this year, we are having the 100th anniversary national athlete competitions. And also, in ordinary lives, we have so many interesting festivals and events, such as 365 fashion event, something like that.
Marking its 4th edition this year, the Seoul 365 Fashion Show will encompass more than 500 individual events across the city until the end of the year. A street fashion show will showcase pieces by designers chosen as Designer of the Month at various locations in the city, including Dongdaemun Design Plaza, Gwanghwamun, and Sinchon. Every month, the chosen designers will show their collections 3 times a week at different locations, and in May, designer Kim Seoryong, famous for designing outfits for global K-pop sensations BTS, will showcase his pieces. And thanks to the newly signed agreement, international fashionistas will be able to tune and to see exactly what Seoul has to offer. 원정환, 아리랑 뉴스.
Tours to the southern side of the joint security area will resume from Wednesday. They had been stopped for the past 6 months for the removal of landmines and the withdrawal of military posts in the area. Both of those operations were part of the Inter-Korean Comprehensive Military Agreement that was signed last September, aimed at disarming the JSA. Seoul also says it's working with North Korea and the UN Command to allow visitors access to the northern side of the JSA. An outbreak of African swine fever in China has caused pork prices here in South Korea to soar by nearly 17% from a month ago. According to the Korea Agro Fisheries and Food Trade Corporation, the wholesale price of pork this month was almost $4 per kilogram. The retail price of the most popular cut, pork belly, also rose 10% to nearly $16 a kilo. The Seoul Metropolitan Government is looking to improve its zero-pay mobile payment system by providing additional payment options and discounts starting next month. Consumers will be able to make payments using their own QR codes on their smartphones rather than having to scan the zero-pay QR code provided by the vendor. Seoul City is also working to provide discounts to users who choose to use zero-pay at public facilities in the capital, such as parks, stadiums and parking lots. Small businesses can also benefit from a 0% commission rate, and consumers can enjoy 40% tax deductions. Korean-Australian golfer Lee Min-ji has clinched her 5th LPGA Tour title by winning the Hugel Air Premier LA Open on Sunday. She finished at 14 under 270 for a 4-stroke victory at the Wilshire Country Club in Los Angeles. South Korean golfer Kim Se-young, meanwhile, came second, finishing at 10 under 274. That has been your 3-minute news flash.
Seoul was gloomy today, while there was rain in many other parts of the country.
Yes, it's been grey for quite some time now, and I hope it does brighten up soon. And to see if it does, let's get the latest weather forecast from our Michelle Park at the Weather Centre. Michelle.
Hi guys, now today's rain was mostly focused in the southern regions, especially in Jeju and Gyeongsangbuk-do province, along with some gusty winds as well. Now the rest of the country can expect between 5 and 20 millimeters of more rain. By Tuesday afternoon, a high-pressure front will bring clear skies with it. Now, surrounding areas such as Beijing will see temperatures similar to Seoul, while rain is forecast for Tokyo. Now, rain will linger until tomorrow morning, so we'll wake up to 11 degrees Celsius, and the temperatures will be similarly mild across the nation. And sunny skies and warmer weather is in forecast, temperatures mostly rising back up into the 20s. Another rainstorm is expected for Wednesday, but highs are likely to remain in the 20s. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That will wrap it up for this edition of Arirang News. Thank you, as always, for watching.
News in depth coming up next.
Daily news. You need